I never thought I'd be writing something like this, but here I am. My name's Mike, and I've been married to Lisa for 10 years. We met in college right after I graduated, and we got married pretty quickly because we both thought we'd found the one. I mean, she seemed perfect back then, beautiful, funny, smart, and she had that kind of fiery attitude that made her stand out. We had a good life, or so I thought. From the start, there were little signs that something was off, but I ignored them because I was convinced I loved her and she loved me. She was always busy, work, friends, her social life. Sometimes I'd get a little jealous that she was out with her friends late or that she had a habit of canceling plans last minute. She'd say she was tired or she'd be just busy with work. But honestly, I could tell she was hiding something. She'd get defensive if I pressed her about it, snapping at me that I was being paranoid or insecure. Then there was the time I noticed her phone kept buzzing late at night. Every time I looked over, she'd quickly hide it or turn the screen away. I'd catch her typing fast, her face flushed, but she'd always say it was just her coworker or some work stuff. I wanted to trust her, I really did, but the gut feeling kept nagging me. Things got worse when she started coming home later than usual. I'd ask where she was and she'd brush it off, saying she was working late or out with friends. But I found out she had been going to the gym with a new friend, Sarah, who I didn't know that well. I brushed it off, thinking maybe I was just overthinking, but that nagging feeling kept growing. And then came the night when everything changed. I came home early from work feeling restless. I'd forgotten my phone on the kitchen counter and saw a message pop up on her phone, something from a guy named Mark, a number I didn't recognize. The message read, "Can't wait to see you tonight. Missed you all day." My stomach dropped. I stared at it for a second, trying to process what I was reading. My wife had been cheating on me with Mark, our best man from the wedding. That's when I realized the signs weren't just signs, they were proof. Everything she'd lied about, the late nights, the secretive behavior, it all made sense now. I didn't know what to feel at first. Shock, anger, betrayal. Honestly, I think I was just numb. I stared at that message for what felt like an eternity, trying to grasp the reality that the woman I'd loved for a decade had been lying to me this entire time. Then the rage hit me like a freight train. How could she do this? With Mark, our supposedly best man, the guy who stood beside us at the wedding, who was supposed to be my friend, my confidant. And she, my wife, the one I trusted with my life, was out there screwing him behind my back. I waited until she was asleep, which took forever because she's a bitchy insomniac when she's up to no good. Once I was sure she was out cold, I quietly grabbed her phone to look for more evidence. It was worse than I thought. There were texts, nudes, pictures of her with Mark. They'd been sneaking around for months, hiding it from me. I found a whole thread of messages, flirty, intimate, explicit, that made my stomach turn just reading them. They'd been planning meetups, secret rendezvous. I felt like I'd been sucker punched. I couldn't sleep after that. My mind was racing, trying to figure out what to do. Do I confront her right away? Do I call Mark and ask him what the hell was going on? But what stopped me was the sheer amount of lies I'd been fed. She'd always told me she was too busy, working late, out with friends. Turns out she was screwing the guy who was supposed to be my best man. That's when I realized that everything about our marriage had been a lie and I'd been blind for years. In the morning, I couldn't hold it in anymore. I decided I had to confront her. I waited until she was in the shower, then I took her phone and found the nerve to wake her up and ask her how long she'd been cheating on me. Her reaction. She woke up with that bitchy smirk, trying to lie her way out of it. She told me I was crazy, that I was just jealous, that Mark was just a friend, and I was overreacting. But her tone was defensive, her eyes were darting around, and her body language betrayed her. I knew she was lying again. I felt like I was losing my mind. How could she deny everything when I had the proof right in front of me? I was furious, hurt, and confused all at once. I wanted to scream at her, to shake her and get her to admit it, but I held back. Instead, I just looked at her and said, "Tell me the truth, Lisa. How long has this been going on?" Her face twisted into a sneer and she said, "You're overthinking it, you always do, you're just paranoid." That was it. I knew I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay. I had to decide what to do next. I knew I couldn't stay with her, not anymore. The woman I married, the woman I loved, was gone, replaced by someone I didn't recognize. And Mark, our supposed best man, was just as much a part of the betrayal. I felt broken, betrayed, furious, but also oddly relieved that I finally knew the truth. I just had no idea what the future held now. After I confronted her that morning, everything changed. Lisa's reaction was classic, denial mixed with venom. She called me insecure, a jealous freak, and then threw in a few nasty words about how I was boring and clueless for not noticing what was happening right under my nose. She even went as far as to accuse me of not satisfying her anymore, claiming she was just exploring her options because I was so dull in bed. That one stung more than anything, like I'd been replaced by some fantasy version of a husband who didn't exist. I felt my blood boil. I wanted to yell, to scream, to break something, but I kept my cool, barely. Inside, I was a mess of rage, heartbreak, and a strange sense of relief that I finally knew the terrible truth. I told her I was done, that I couldn't be with someone who lied and cheated for months. She just rolled her eyes and spat out some more lies, saying I was overreacting, that she needed space, and that Mark was just a friend. Yeah, right. That evening I decided I needed some time to think. I couldn't stay in the house with her anymore. I packed a bag and left, not knowing what I was going to do next, but knowing I couldn't stay under the same roof. Walking out that door, I felt like I was walking away from everything I'd built, my marriage, my trust, my future. It was a gut punch. I kept replaying everything, the signs I ignored, the lies I believed, the moment I found her messages. It all felt like a cruel joke. Over the next few days, I went through a whirlwind of emotions. I was furious at her, but I also felt like crying, like I'd been punched so hard I couldn't breathe. I kept coming back to the fact that she'd been lying to me for so long. The woman I thought I knew, the one I loved, had been screwing Mark, the guy who was supposed to be my best man at the wedding. It was hard to swallow. Every time I saw her name pop up on my phone, I felt a surge of anger and disappointment. How could she do that? How could she betray me like that, right in front of my face? But what hurt the most wasn't just the cheating. It was the betrayal of trust, the feeling that I'd been played for a fool. I'd always believed in honesty, in loyalty. And she, Lisa, had thrown all that out the window. I sat alone in my apartment, staring at the ceiling, wondering if I'd ever be able to trust anyone again. The pain was deep, but beneath it all there was also a flicker of clarity. I realized I couldn't stay with her, not unless she genuinely wanted to change, and honestly, I didn't think she was capable of that. I needed to think about what I really wanted, what I deserved after this. And the answer was clear. I deserved better than a wife who lies and cheats and calls me paranoid every time I try to get to the truth. The days that followed were the hardest of my life. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, that smug expression she always had when she was lying. Every time I looked at my phone, there was that damn message from Mark, taunting me with what I'd lost. I started questioning everything about myself. Was I inadequate? Did I miss signs? Or was she just that good at hiding it? No matter how much I tried to analyze, I kept coming back to one thing. She'd been screwing around with the guy I trusted most, the one who was supposed to be my friend. At some point, I knew I had to decide what I was going to do about her and Mark. I wasn't just going to let this slide. I needed some kind of payback, some way to make her see she couldn't get away with this. I started planning my revenge, but not the childish kind, something calculated, something she wouldn't see coming. I wanted her to feel the pain of betrayal, to understand how much she'd hurt me. First, I dug into her social media accounts. I spent hours scrolling through her photos and messages, trying to find anything I missed. I realized she'd been careful, covering her tracks, deleting messages, even changing her passwords. But I also found out she'd been meeting Mark at a particular coffee shop downtown, always late at night or early in the morning. That gave me an idea. I decided I'd make her regret every lie, every betrayal. If I was going to do this, I'd do it right. I started monitoring her movements. I wanted her to see that I was aware of everything. I followed her to that coffee shop a few nights later, staying across the street, watching her sneak inside with Mark. The sight of them together, so intimate, so careless, made my stomach turn. I felt a mix of anger and despair. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind. That's when I decided I'd leak her secrets publicly. She loved her social media, her image. I knew that if I could expose her, it would hit her where it hurt. The next step was to gather all the dirt I had, her messages, the photos, everything, and plan my move. I created a fake social profile, a burner account, and waited for the perfect moment. I wanted her to realize that the lies she told herself about being smart and in control were about to blow up in her face. I knew that if I exposed her, it would destroy what little reputation she had left. And honestly, I didn't care about her reputation anymore. I just wanted her to suffer the way she made me suffer. I wanted her to feel the pain of losing everything. Because of her own treachery, that's when I knew I was ready to strike. The day I finally made my move, everything changed. I waited until she was at work, confident she wouldn't suspect a thing. I logged into her social media account, the one I'd secretly created, and uploaded everything I had, screenshots of her messages with Mark, the photos of them together, the location check-ins. I crafted a post, anonymous but detailed enough for her friends and family to see what she'd been hiding. I made sure to include a note about her lies, her manipulation, and her betrayal. I wanted her to realize the life she thought she was controlling was about to fall apart. I hit send and immediately felt a strange mixture of relief and dread. I knew that once she saw it, there'd be no turning back. I sat there, waiting, heart pounding, wondering how she'd react. The first thing she did was call me, furious and crying at the same time. She accused me of stalking her, of trying to ruin her, of being paranoid. But then I saw her face change. It was like the mask she'd been wearing for years finally cracked. She knew her secrets were out. Within an hour, her phone was blowing up. Friends, family, coworkers, everyone was messaging her, demanding explanations. Some of her closest friends turned on her instantly. I could hear her screaming on the phone, cursing me, calling me a psycho, a jealous loser. But I didn't care. She might have been good at lying, but now everyone saw the truth. I had finally taken control of the situation. Her reaction was pure chaos. She came home early, furious, crying, trying to deny everything with her usual venom. But I held my ground. I told her she'd lost my trust, and more than that, she'd lost her reputation. I told her I wanted nothing to do with her anymore, that I was done feeling like a fool. She begged, she cried, she told me she loved me and that everything was a mistake, that Mark meant nothing. But I knew better. I saw her for what she was, a manipulative, selfish woman who couldn't keep her legs closed and her lies straight. That night, she stormed out, saying she was going to see her sister, but I knew she was running from the fallout. Honestly, I felt a strange sense of closure. I'd always wanted honesty, loyalty, things she could never give me. Now I had my revenge and the truth was out there. I realized I'd been mourning a woman who never existed. She was just a master manipulator and I was finally free from her grip. It hurt like hell, but I knew I'd made the right decision. Something inside me shifted, and I knew I wouldn't be the sucker she thought I was anymore. In the days that followed, I kept my distance. I didn't answer her calls or texts anymore. Honestly, I didn't really want to hear her excuses or her pathetic apologies. She lost me the moment she decided to cheat and lie about it. Watching the fallout unfold was almost surreal. Friends I thought I could trust turned their back on her as they saw the truth. Some tried to reach out to me, but I wasn't in the mood for their pity or their judgment. I just needed time to breathe, to process what had happened. Looking back, I realize I've learned a lot from this nightmare. I learned that sometimes, the people you trust the most are the ones who can betray you the worst. I learned that you have to be careful about who you let into your life because not everyone is who they claim to be. Most importantly, I learned that revenge isn't about causing pain for pain's sake. It's about taking control when your world been shattered, about forcing the truth out into the open so you can start to heal. I've come to accept that my marriage is over. Lisa is gone, and honestly, I feel a strange sense of relief. I don't miss the lies or the betrayal. I miss the idea of what I thought we had, a future built on trust, but that was a lie from the start. Now I'm focusing on myself, rebuilding my life and trying to find happiness again. It's not easy and some days are worse than others, but I know I'll get through it. If there's one thing I want anyone reading this to take away, it's this: don't ignore the signs. Don't let yourself be blindsided by someone who's secretly betraying you. Trust your gut. When something doesn't feel right, don't brush it aside. Confront it, because the worst thing you can do is pretend everything's fine when it's not, and when you do find out, don't be afraid to take control. Revenge isn't about destruction, it's about reclaiming your dignity, your self-respect, and your life. Sometimes, you need to burn everything to the ground to start rebuilding stronger than ever. So yeah, I've lost a wife, a friend, and a lot of illusions, but I've gained clarity and a new sense of strength. And honestly, that's worth more than I ever thought possible.